There's the three of them at the end. And she says, I was isolated since I was 7. This is sort of the first time I've been around other shamans. And what I've made here is like a bunch of friends. What if she was the winner? Because now she has a bunch of friends.
Is there anything more misunderstood in history than magic? Here's what your history classes conveniently skipped. The world was not built by logic and reason alone. It was built by something much more ancient.
The Hidden History of Magick tells the true stories of the astrologer in the White House, the intuitive who sat alongside Gilded Age tycoons, and the black ops government agencies that have used mediums to talk to aliens since the 30s.
These moments often get covered up, sidelined, or buried because they prove something. Magic is not fringe. It's used every day.
Because while we've been trained to trust everything but our own intuition, the people in power never stop consulting the stars. They know something we've been taught to forget. Magic is real, and we have access to it.
I'm Rhiannon Houch.
And I'm Erin Bagwell.
We are psychics, witches, mothers, and storytellers ready to break down history's best-kept secrets.
Welcome to the Hidden History of Magick.
Today on the show, we're talking about Korea's mega popular mystic competition game show, Battle of the Fates.
We swoon over the incredible sets and challenges, gasp at the intimate readings happening in front of a panel of judges, and repeat the one phrase over and over again.
American TV could never.
Welcome, Caitie Rosen, to the Hidden History of Magick.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
What a wild ride for you to come on for this episode. I feel like we're going to go in so many different directions. Before I ask about Battle of the Fates, I want to introduce you properly. Caitie Rosen is a woman in STEM. She's a woman of the wind, and she's the host of the smash hit podcast, Voice Notes from the Group Chat, which is actually one of my favorite podcasts because Caitie does these basically like internet deep dives, and they're 15 minutes and they're perfect. And it's like, what's going on with this? Will you somebody tell me about that? And Caitie's got all the scoops, so you guys can follow her on Patreon.
Yeah, I like to keep them short and sweet, in and out. Here's what you need to know about that thing people are talking about, and that's it.
You know what? I will say, and this may be a very controversial opinion based on how many people are like, so sorry, I left such a long voice note, and it's 2 minutes long. But I think that 15 minutes is the perfect length for a voice note.
Great. And you'll love it.
Great.
You'll love it. Caitie, we're here to talk about Battle of the Fates, an iconic television show, a smash hit that is essentially the first show to highlight and feature shamans, psychics, tarot readers who compete in a game show-like setup to win money and become the top fate reader. Had you ever heard the show before I slid into your DMs?
No, I had not heard of it, but I was excited to find out it existed.
And
I love a competition reality show.
Well, I was just going to say, this is kind of your genre. Had you ever seen anything like this? Like, can we compare it to anything else kind of out there?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't think so. I feel like normally the skill, it's like cooking, singing, or like literally surviving, or like just like outlasting by being annoying. I think also because there's so many like rules and regulations surrounding competition reality shows and like what needs to happen like down to the letter. I feel like this show is it's like a little bit nebulous, kind of hard to very exactly quantify, which makes it really interesting. And like, you know, that's why they have a judging panel instead of just like, okay, I got this many points and so I move on or whatever. It's more like a singing competition than like, voting people out or whatever. So I thought that was very interesting. But no, it's unlike anything I've ever watched, I think, before, for sure.
I'll say that I learned from watching this because they kept calling it a survivor show, that's the name for that genre is because you have to make it to the next round.
You have to survive.
Yes, exactly. And I thought that they were so clever with how they chose to test something that's so subjective. But you saying that it's like singing and technically, I think cooking, because to me, this is my Great British Baking Show.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't know what anyone's food tastes like on a cooking competition.
Right.
And we don't know if the judges are smokers and they can taste anything. You know what I mean?
What a good point.
But it is like, I know I literally just said that, but I do also feel like it is also a little bit more objective than that as well, because it isn't just like people's tastes. I mean, like, and we can get into sort of maybe some of the later rounds, but it's like there are technically right and wrong answers to some of these questions that are being asked.
Absolutely.
Which is so cool.
I mean, I will say I found this show on Instagram.
Same.
You know, it was served to me through the reels, and I thought, I got to get eyes on this, and was completely head over heels from the start of the set to kind of seeing the end.
Oh, yes. The production, I mean, besides the editing, but the production was so fun and dramatic. And I love a Korean show, so this was great. And I feel like the ways that you got to experience very different types of personalities around the work too, because it's like some of the people I'm like, oh, did they make it through, especially when it was a little more subjective, did they make it through because of their charisma, or did they make it through because and showmanship, because it is TV, or did people really resonate? And so it was really fun to see kind of how the different ways that people could be flamboyant or very serious about the work that they do. And I always love, as a psychic, I love watching other people work and do a reading and a session, because I'm like, oh, I didn't know it could be that way. Or, oh, I get the nudge like that and I didn't know that it was okay to just move like that or whatever. Or sometimes it's like, I can see what I'm doing and I'm like, oh, thank God. Because so much of it feels like it's not pretend, but it's play, or that it's because it's so subjective and nebulous.
It's so subjective,
that I don't know I can't definitively be out here on the internet and being like, this is how you do a reading, because there's so many ways. And we got to see that because there were so many readers.
Yeah. It's like so visually, like you can tell it's so personal to all of them. Like, just like from their actions and how they're dressed. Like, you know, there's like a few guys who are just like, oh, I'm here in my button down shirt. And then you have
they look like
people
normal
in the,
accountants.
Yeah.
A podiatrist, like literally.
Literally. And then you have like the people in the full like traditional outfits who are like generational shamans. Oh, it was just so cool.
Rhiannon, can you set the scene for us?
Oh, yes. The year is 2000. We're cruising down the street, blasting Britney in our beat-up brown Mitsubishi Montero with all of our friends.
It's Britney, bitch.
Headed to the mall to buy accessories from Claire's and watch the greatest movie of all time,
Debatable.
Miss Congeniality. Miss Congeniality. The homebodies were playing Sims in their basements or learning the latest choreography from NSYNC. And we were all celebrating that the world didn't end with Y2K.
While we were still waiting for our AOL dial-up to connect, Korea was experiencing a cultural boom with the introduction of broadband internet. And in Ansang, Korea, our baby girl Lee So-bin was born. This baby shaman sealed her fate when she was visited by the deities at the tender age of 7. At age 9, she made her first television debut, making her one of Korea's most recognizable shamans, bringing her into today to become one of the stars on the new hit show, Battle of the Fates. I think the first thing that took my breath away was the sets. I couldn't believe how beautiful we basically are kind of dropped into this studio, but it doesn't feel big and drafty. It feels kind of warm and magical. And the show kind of opens up essentially with, we've got a panel of our Reaper judges who are kind of in the mountains of the set, way up high, 30 feet in the air, the Fate Reapers by themselves. And then we have these lily pads on water where people come out and they all sit on their own lily pad. And we get to see tarot readers, shamans, foot readers, ?
Oh, yeah.
Soju readers. I mean, all kinds of different energy workers, healers.
Yeah, there was a couple fairies, a tarot card reader, astrologists.
And they were all kind of centered. The set was circular, centered under this giant moon that would then sometimes kind of talk and be the narrator of the show, ?
Oh, I don't know if I even noticed that.
Oh, I feel like in my brain, the narrator was the moon, but maybe I just made that up because it felt like people were looking to the moon. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
You know what? The moon speaks to me too, so
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And essentially, they take this group of 49 people and they say, okay, we're going to give you psychic challenges and we're going to drop it down. And the first 20 get to move on to the next round. I want you guys to jump in. What were your favorite the exercise or process that they did to kind of that spoke to you?
Well, I just want to jump in right away and say that I come from a very not dark culture, but my culture, you know, death is a very big part of the conversation that we have all of the time. And I feel like American culture isn't necessarily open to talking about death the way that most other cultures are comfortable talking about death.
Sure.
And I love that we get right into it.
Oh, yes.
Deciding or intuiting, which is brilliant to go based on the past, revealing through just looking at a picture, a name, and a birth date, how this person died.
And a death date.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And a death date, yes.
Because I feel like that was like a big part of the winner winning was to be like, we don't actually know.
Yeah. And she was right. They were
And
like,
she was right.
Every time that as someone got close to a detail too, I loved that all of the judges were like, it's right here. It's right here.
Yeah.
The Book of Fate.
Yeah.
I do feel like judges' reactions is like one of the best parts of Korean reality shows is like they really let the judges like be big in their reactions. And I think it's incredible. There's no like stoic, just like, oh, I'm just sitting here judging you. They're like really reacting. I love it.
I loved all the judges. My only note was I wish that we had a shamanic judge who was able to give us a little more insight into. And the one gal did a pretty good job of being like, oh, yeah, sometimes readers can't do this or sometimes this happens. But I would have loved like an authority figure to kind of steer us a little bit into kind of the process.
Oh, that's fair. Did you feel like it? I mean, to me, it felt like it was mostly comedians. And then like a K-pop star.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were great. They were fun. I agree. Their faces were excellent. They really kind of led you. But I would have loved just like an anchor. When we make the American version of this, like Rhiannon and I need to be like bipping and bopping in the judges, corner, telling people why certain things are happening.
Yeah.
And giving a little more context.
Even like if they wanted to stick with the like known figures and like noted skeptics that they have as this like 5-person judging panel, there could have been, just like someone who is like hosting, narrating, not necessarily like a physical presence in the room, but like explaining what's going on. And they did have like editing of like the different shamans, like their little like in the moment confessional kind of things, talking about what's going on. But it was like, it would have been interesting to have, like a sort of a separated third party who knows exactly what's happened. I mean, as much as you can know exactly what's happening, describing the process.
Yeah, I loved this round though, because at this point we start with 49 people. And they have all different styles of modalities, including astrologers, including, tarot readers. Oh, yeah, Saju readers. So there are, I think about the foot guy for this part because how is he going to do a reading on just a face?
How is he going to do? How did he get ahead, honestly?
Well, I think, was it not the one where there were just 9 pairs of feet? You had to look at?
Yes.
He got pretty far too. Dr. Bergman, is that his name? He got pretty far.
Bakeman.
And he had like a medical bag that he would bring with him and pull out his tools.
And his magnifying glass to look closer at the feet.
Yes. And so there at the beginning in the intuition, there were a few, back-to-back competitions and people could chime in and give the reading out loud if they wanted to, which I thought was an interesting way to play it because you had to show your reasoning of how you got there too. And so in the beginning, we got to hear the people that were like, I pulled the King of Pentacles and therefore, or some people were like, oh, I felt in my body like I fell and I had cuts all over. And so they could feel it in their body. And then others were doing like, oh, based on their name.
Yes, the names were really big. They would write down the names and write down the year they were born. And that was giving them a lot of psychic information, which I thought was really fun and interesting.
Yeah, that one, because I can't do readings like that. But there are people, I've heard of people who, if they hear the sound of your name, it carries a frequency, or there's like numerology that they read. And so I've been curious. I've wanted to go to one of those readers, but they can feel like your whole soul blueprint based on just the frequency of your name, which I think is interesting. As a person named Rhiannon after the Fleetwood Mac song, who inevitably became a witch. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like sometimes the names do carry a specific frequency. But yeah, it was fascinating to hear the reasoning, because even when obviously you're going to get a similar end result in this first round, because you have to guess like how someone died or whatever is going on with this person. And so to hear the why, I thought was very interesting in the beginning.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool to specifically that first round where they show that woman's picture on the mountain and they do have to figure out how she died. The energy of the bells and the flags, like the chills that I got of like, woo, magic is happening in that room. To have all 49 of them like go into town was so crazy. And the challenges were, some of them were more intense. Some of them were lighter. You had to guess like who the millionaire is. You had to guess like if a couple was going to stay together or not. You had to guess fertility. So they were kind of fun challenges. We even had to guess, you know, out of a group of 10 students, which one of them go to a specific university. Like the challenges really ranged, and it was fun to see kind of how they operated. I feel like that part of the show to me was like very more light. And then when they got into round 2 to do the readings, that's where I feel like I really locked in and picked my favorites.
Which is wild that was the light one, because we're like, are they divorced? How did they die? What happened to this person? It's already
American
so dark.
TV could never. We could never. We're going to say that 100 times because guys, buckle up. Buckle up.
The one where it was like, okay, there's this couple. They dated for 3 months. Then they broke up. Are they going to get back together? And the couple just like stand there.
They were stoic.
God bless.
Oh my God.
Especially,
I loved it.
Dear reader, because spoilers, but because the result wasn't a happy ending.
So the guy said, I want to get back together. And the girl said, absolutely not. And he had to stand there on stage and receive that. But then the girl kind of warmed a little. She's like, well, maybe I'll give him another.
And then he was like, I actually don't know anymore.
He's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here.
Oh, I know. That was really fun too about the tarot cards, how accurate that they could be about the love readings. Like they really nailed it on the love readings.
Before we move on to the second round where the readers have to read each other, were there any kind of people that stuck out for you in the beginning that you were kind of rooting for or kind of invested in? It was tough. I mean, there were 49 people we had to kind of get eyes on.
Yeah, and the way they brought like everyone in, it felt very first night of The Bachelor, where there's like a big chunk of people where you're getting a lot of background information and you're like, okay, you're going to go at least a little bit far. And then they kind of speed round, because it's like 49 people is so many, and they like speed round through a bunch of people and you're like, okay, well, I might not need to get to know you too well.
Yeah.
And then they give you like a couple at the end where you're getting the details. So like, I feel like automatically you're sort of drawn to the people that you're given that information about initially. But I was like, first one in, Lady Wish. I really liked her vibe.
Lady Wish was fun. Yeah. Very light and bright.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you, Caitie. What is your relationship with psychic stuff, mysticism?
Okay. I wouldn't say that I was like a full skeptic for most of my life, but I was mostly a skeptic for most of my life. But then, like, I will say, you know, my 2020 vision board was like a little bit crazy in terms of the things that actually happened in my year. It was frightening a little bit how accurate some of the like random, it was like the things that I was like, oh, I want this and I want this were like kind of whatever. But then the like random things I felt like I should put on my vision board ended up being the like most specific ones. So like there's always been a like where I'm like kind of open. And then I like online met a bunch of people who were really into astrology. So then I was like, well, I have all this time on my hands. So I started thinking a little bit more about that. And then I met Erin and like I was there for the inception of the Buffalo Medium. And I was like, do I believe now just a little bit? And then truly in my like relationship with Erin, I've started to like be more and more open, but I'm not like coming into this. I would say I was like, there's still the skepticism is still like a little bit there. But like every time they'd get it right, I'd be like, well, it's real. So
yes, I saw articles where people were trying to accuse it of being scripted. Mm-hmm. And I love that one of the psychics' responses was like, baby, they didn't have that big of a budget. They couldn't afford scripted.
The money went into the sets.
Yes.
Hi, Erin here. If you've been loving the conversations we're having and you are curious about going deeper into your own story, I highly recommend booking a session with my co-host Rhiannon Houch. Her soul session stories are unlike anything I've ever experienced. She guides you through your own inner world, helps you uncover patterns, connect the dots, and can actually shift what's been keeping you stuck. I had a reading with Rhiannon about a year ago, and honestly, I think about it all the time. I think of Rhiannon as kind of like the intuitive's intuitive because she gives you not only a connection to your guides, but this beautiful cosmic blueprint that can really ground you and anchor you on your journey ahead. She also offers 15-minute intuitive sessions if you're looking for something quick and focused, as well as one-on-one mentorship for ongoing support. You can book with her at rhiannonismagic.com/connect or click the link in the show notes below. Trust me, you're going to love your reading with Rhiannon. Okay, now back to the show.
I do want to say one thing about the production schedule that I think it was Lady Wish who like at one point during the end of the first episode like put her head down on her lily pad and was like, I'm exhausted, like get me out of here. Because really, and even later in the finale, one of the guys was like, it's 11 p.m. Like the energy to be psychic for so long, to do 20 challenges. I mean, kudos to the people who went out there and did it and did their best, because that was really tough stuff to do and very hard to do under camera, lights, a long production schedule. Like for you to be connected, and they did so well, was really, really wild. And 1,000,000% all of the budget went into production design. And I feel like they shot this in like 4 days.
I think they did. I mean, like, obviously, you know, people can wear the same outfits for multiple days to like, but like, I do think so much of it happened in like a couple days, and then they got to change for like the finale.
Yeah, absolutely. I scoured the internet for production stuff and I couldn't find anything, mostly probably because it's all written in Korean. But if somebody finds some like back end interviews with the producers, I want to learn everything about how they created the show, because I think it's really fascinating.
Hopefully next year they'll get more time. But the fact that they probably did it like in a super low a budget you could do for having so many people on set at any given point.
True. Yeah.
But it was the #1 premiere on Disney Plus for a Korean show. It was wildly popular.
That makes sense to me. I mean, like, but that's the thing, right? Is there are shamans who have been famous since they were children. There are like K-pop stars. There were a lot of like, I feel like very famous people. There was like that one comedian who is like now does tarot. There were a lot of famous people. And then like the people who are on as the like being read, also the like chef from Culinary Class Wars. Like there's so many like huge names, I feel like, on this show.
Yes, it's become the platform's most watched show in Korea, period.
Wow.
America could never.
I know.
Let's move on to the Battle of Ki, where the readers tell each other's fortunes. Now, the most fascinating part of this, I thought, was that it was a taboo to read another shaman's fortune. And so I thought that was really interesting because I love getting readings. And I feel like I have blind spots in my life that I can't read for myself. And I love having psychic friends. And I couldn't believe that the shamans aren't like trading numbers and getting info. That seems like something they should do.
You've said before that you only will trade with a friend or you'll only read a friend if they're also a little bit psychic.
Yeah.
Or psychic, period, right?
Yeah. With a few exceptions, but yes.
The most I know about this part of their culture is from this show, but it seems like it's like about respect for their personal deities. It feels like a little bit like the shamans especially are like getting their information from their like granny spirit, which I'm obsessed with. It's like only ever really a granny spirit. It seemed like a little bit of like, okay, well, my grandmother doesn't want to talk to you. It was like,
yeah,
like sometimes that would come up of their like, be like, oh no, my deities want no part in any of this. And I wonder if the respect is like, my deities will leave your deities alone. You know, if like that's maybe part of it.
I thought the competition part of that was so fascinating because I think they were using or how I interpret it kind of in the Western like languages, like your guide. So you have spirits and guides who are kind of leading you or giving you information. And they use the word deities, which is gorgeous.
Which I'm stealing.
And it was interesting. Like they were like, my deities are more powerful than your deities. But when I channel, I think it all comes from like a singular source. I think we're all connecting to the same source. I mean, the interesting thing about the way cultures can kind of break down the language is like we don't know, right? Like we can speculate, this is where I'm getting the information and this is how it's coming through, but like we don't know, which I think a lot of psychics wouldn't say on a podcast. But so it's interesting, their interpretation of how the information is coming through is so fascinating. And I will also say when I started my mediumship journey, you know, my grandmother sat on my left shoulder for probably my first 30 readings. And so I did have a granny spirit who was leading and guiding me. So I loved that there were synchronicities. And then there are also things like, I would never go to like Caitie or Rhiannon and be like, my spirit guides are stronger than yours. Like, I'm going to take you down. Like that energetically, like we're all sourcing from the same information.
Yeah.
That's the way I interpret it.
I do also think some of the people who came in with a little bit more of that confrontational, my deities are better than your deities energy, they got knocked out.
Yes.
Like Nob Sobli, who looked like a K-pop star, gorgeous body, who went up against young master Jisan.
Jisan also one of those. Like they were the perfect head-to-head match because they brought the same energy, and it's like you could see their deities, like at war. It felt very like anime style, where they're head-to-head, and then their deities are battling. Like Mulan isn't in Mulan. Don't you see like the dragons battling?
Yeah.
Is the cartoon above them? That's how I imagined their confrontation.
Yes, they both were like. I feel like several of the matches were very like friendly. Oh, I am trying to do this like very like respectful reading of you, and the two of them were both just like, why are you crying? Like
I know.
She was so cutting. I don't think I've ever seen, and we watch Real Housewives. I don't think I've ever seen anybody who is like, I'm going to take this knife and stick it in you and twist it until you cry.
Except for Alison Dubois.
I mean, I think she was more intense than Alison Dubois. I think she was like, her energy was so, because she just was like, kill.
Yeah.
Oh, what a wild match.
I will say that it is interesting to have all of these psychics in a small room too, because they're all summoning their deities. They're all calling them in. They like ring the bells, and all of that is to bring them into the room, right? And I think technically, you know, interdimensional space is probably infinite and it's not that big of a deal. But it reminds me of when Hilma af Klint invited Steiner to look at all of her paintings, and there were 100 of them in a small room, and the energy was so intense that he walked in there and was like, nope, can't. 3 words, I got to get out of here, because it was too much for him. And so I can't even imagine what the energy of that space was like. I mean, he was like literally a teenager.
He was
right?
18. Yeah. He was the youngest contestant.
And they were both really young in their journey. And so to be able to be in that energy for however many hours they had already been filming, I can imagine that it's a lot. Like sometimes it's too much to flow through you. And the way that it comes out is like, oh, here's an outlet I need to lash. You know, with ancestor guides, because they're human or they had been human, sometimes I think too that they still have more human tendencies when they speak or how they interact with the world versus like someone who's never been human, where everything's like super neutral, the guidance feels really different to me when it comes from a human versus, or a former human versus like, I don't know, an angel or an alien or whatever. And so the fact that there are so many like ancestor guides in this space too makes it really interesting how emotional it got.
I also think like this is one of the rounds where there's going to be a less subjective answer. It comes down to more of like the judges, the fate reapers deciding who just did a better job. Like they have portfolios of like all the information they could possibly somehow like seemingly endless information about the about these like contestants. Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, they were like, mother did do that one thing 5 years ago. We like have it written down here. And I just think like there's like the first round, there was like objective right or wrong answers. And the third round, there were also objective right or wrong answers. But like this was one of the rounds where it was just like you go for a while and you say a bunch of stuff and then the other person says a bunch of stuff and the judges decide whose stuff was like a little bit more thorough, a little bit more detailed. As like a game mechanic, that was very interesting to me of like a little bit, you're just like picking like whose style do you like better? Like we didn't see that there was like a rubric of like they have to get 6 points from this one thing or like mention these 3 things, you know. It was very like who seems like they did the more thorough job.
Yeah, and I think also to go back to kind of the mediums that they are working in, like the foot doctor's reading where he's looking at a foot is going to be less dramatic than somebody getting out fans and bells and reading their ancestors. So it also was tough from like a modality perspective. I think it's kind of clear, especially from Battle 1 to 2, that like the shamans are really kind of holding their own, that they're getting kind of the most information. It's easier for them to be flexible through the different tasks. And then it seems like if we had to rank them, then the psychic tarot readers are kind of hanging in there too and doing a good job. And then the Saju readers seem like there's some logic behind it, but they're not able to kind of do some of the quicker, more intuitive challenges. And then everybody else kind of falls to the wayside.
Yeah, it was the one matchup of specifically like Love Tarot Reader, who's like the comedian who sort of just started doing this, versus the foot reader who was like, all right, take your socks off. I'm looking at your feet with a magnifying glass, which I loved. That was just such an interesting pair because how do you like what they do is so different and they have to go head to head.
The sound effects when she took off her socks and twinkled her toes.
How dare they? How dare they?
It was, and her shyness around it. Oh, yeah. That moment was one of my favorites.
It was great. It was great to watch.
We've talked about Saju a couple of times. I just want to say that it's when you read somebody's birthday, is their time of birth, and then you get different information and you use a program to kind of figure it out. So that is a specific modality that Korean energy readers use.
And it would be similar to like numerology.
It's fascinating to see like one person has like bells, a fan, and like several flags, and the other person has a laptop. Like,
but the bells and fans, they were coming through, baby.
I mean, the bells and fans won.
They won, yeah.
Can we get into the beef? To me, the greatest rivalry of all time, the shaman versus the tarot readers, because they spent every moment talking shit whenever they could. And I was like, is this a thing? I didn't even know that it was a thing.
I guess like in my head, I'm like, of course, people who are psychic are also probably going to be reading tarot and it's going to all be part of it. And they're like, absolutely not, hard divide.
Yes.
Yeah, I would consider myself kind of sitting on both teams, so it is tough. But I was rooting for the shamans. I got to say, I was team shaman on this one.
It does feel like shamans in Korean culture are like such a very specific thing. And it's like perhaps like passed down, and you can get like possessed by the shamanic spirit. And like, that's how you become to be this shaman. And there's like all these rites and rituals. And there's a lot of culture built up around them. Whereas like tarot was maybe just like, you got your tarot deck and that's kind of what you're doing.
You hop on TikTok and you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Caitie, to that point, there's kind of like a higher tier of shaman called the mudang. And there's two different ways to become a mudang. You either get it hereditarily, where like it's in your bloodline, or you become what's called a charismatic mudang, which means you get the shamanic illness sometime when you're young, and then you have to go through the process of learning. And it seems, and we can kind of talk about this a little bit later too, but it does seem like such an intense process to become a shaman. We haven't really mentioned her, but our girl
Lisa Bean.
Lisa Bean,
Love her.
She was such a young shaman that her parents actually had a right to suppress her deities so that she wouldn't have her gifts and that she could have a childhood. They spent millions of dollars on these rites, couldn't block the deities, decided to, okay, we'll just, she has to become a shaman. This is what it is. And then she becomes kind of the most famous, popular shaman in Korea even today. And in her interviews and her testimonials, she talks about like, she didn't like hang out at school. She was homeschooled. She didn't have a lot of friends, how her parents are really her closest confidants. I mean, it was really, she just works out of her shrine. She stays at home. I mean, it's a really intense life to kind of undertake these. And even there was a reading later on in this couple episodes ahead of us where someone says, if you're not careful, you'll have to pick up the bells. And it's like, it almost feels like a fated calling, but there's serious heaviness to taking this path. And that was very, very clear culturally in the show.
Yeah. It feels like it's like once, okay, you're a shaman, that's it. You just are a shaman. There's no like, you can maybe have another hobby that you like to do, but this is like sort of the thing that you actually have to do.
And I think that's why shamans could kind of give a side eye to tarot readers, because it's like you're doing this as a side hustle while you run your business. Like I was having to like dig up my deity's bells in a grave, since I was 7. There is such a different process to it. It's much more intense.
Well, and I think this is something related to this idea of like, one, you can pick up as a hobby, you can read the books, you can do it on the internet. Like it's very easy to pick up a deck of cards. Doesn't mean that everyone is intuitive or accurate or, but either way, I feel like the TikTok tarot reader is the most popular thing in my feed, apparently. And like anyone could just go in and be like, your soulmate's coming, your soulmate's coming. Oh, he's obsessed with you. And then suddenly you're famous and you're booked out for the year. And so maybe I do have beef with tarot readers. No. But for a shaman, you have to be initiated into the path. And I feel like even with like mediumship, you have to be initiated into the path. Like a lot of times you have to have a really traumatic experience with death or close to death or a really challenging life that brings you to your knees in a way, which when they were talking about shaman illness, and because when they were reading each other, we got to hear like you had a really hard life, you were really isolated, you went through these things. But when I was like, while I was watching, I was Googling shaman illness, and it is that experience of having a really tough life, because that's the thing that initiates you into the work.
I have a list of things that occupy the shamanic illness. It's a mysterious sickness. A person cannot eat. The body becomes weak. The mental state becomes weak. Person visualizes the spirits in dreams. The person has hallucinations. The person makes predictions that can come true. The sickness reoccurs until the person accepts becoming a shaman. And
I think that's the thing where it's fated. You can try to suppress it, but you can't outdo fate, because if you're meant to be a shaman, I think when we think about passed down, it's like, oh, my grandma did it, so I'm going to do it too. But I think sometimes it skips generations because it's you're fated from before birth to become this thing. And if you outrun it, it's going to find a way. And so something that's very interesting is that I love near-death experiences because all different kinds of people have them, like regular, degular people going about their lives. And then suddenly they die and come back. And it's like, oh, I don't know what to do with my world. I also came back with spiritual gifts. Suddenly I'm seeing dead people. Suddenly I'm having dreams about plane crashes, and then the plane crashes and I had the plane number in my dream. And I don't know why I have this gift. It's that initiation or whatever that opens this up. And so some of the people in their near-death experience are told, you're meant to be doing spiritual work. You're meant to be, and you're so far off your path. You're in some like corporate job, or you're focused on this other thing, or you're fully disconnected. And so we reminded you that this is what you're meant to do. And so you get sick or you get shaken into it. And so it's interesting because it sounds like in Korean culture, it's just like, yeah, shamanic sickness, shamanic illness. Like you have to take the path or else it'll like destroy everyone's life. And I think it happens here. We're just culturally unaware of that. Yeah. And then people die and come back. And then people are like, yeah, but did that really happen to you? It was just DMT. You know what I mean?
I have a theory that mental illnesses are connected to the shamanic illness. And that because we are repressing our gifts and abilities, that then our bodies start to shut down mentally. That's a rumor I'm starting.
Yes. Oh, no. Right there with you. Hi, Rhiannon here, just popping in to give you a spiritual tip that's going to enhance and elevate your life. A reading with my co-host, Erin Bagwell. Erin offers mediumship and psychic tarot readings that are perfect for checking in with your spirit guides, getting cosmic messages that apply to your life right now, and seeing who's supporting you on the other side. I personally have had the pleasure of experiencing a reading with Erin, and I was able to connect with my grandparents and my mom, and I got advice that has made it so much easier for me to navigate this chaotic world that we're living in today. You can book appointments right on her website or submit a digital question and get a response back in 48 hours. Check out erin-bagwell.com or click the link in the show notes below to get your reading with Erin today.
We have to move ahead a little bit because we have two more battles to get through. So essentially the readers read each other. Then the people that win that round move ahead. And then we've got
So we're down to 10.
We're down to 10. We've got a group battle situation. So then they team up into little groups.
I feel like we got to say, so they have to divide up into teams, but in order to be even, there needs to be 12 people. So they bring 2 people back.
Yes.
Just sort of right away.
My sugar plum comes back, which I'm excited about. And then Subli comes back, of course, to harass young Master Jensen a little bit more. And they choose to be teammates together, which was mind-blowing.
It almost felt like they didn't choose it. They like both walked toward the same space and they were like, okay.
Yeah, you have to remember that everyone's going based on vibes and intuition. Yeah. And so their deities chose it.
Oh, yeah. So then they end up playing a couple of games where they have to work together to kind of figure it out. And I will say again, the tarot readers weren't super helpful in the group competitions. But then essentially once they kind of get through those evidence-based challenges, then 2 of them have to read one person. And I feel like this is where, again, America could never, to show these celebrities who have public lives have readings from these 2 readers. And we talk about this in the, speaking of housewives, in the episodes, like we cannot control what comes through. So like if you want a reading in front of your friends, be prepared to have spirit throw down on anything and anything that comes through. And during these readings, we have a gal who's like, I want to get pregnant. And Damon is like, well, then you have to sleep in the same bedroom on
with
national
your husband.
television.
Yeah, and then it goes over to the other person. They're like, I see 3 children. You have 1 child now, but there's been another one. And she's like, yeah, I've had 2 miscarriages. And the reader's like, okay, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. What is the point of fortune telling if not to help people through to like forgiveness and healing so that they can get to where they want to go? And so you have to talk about the things that are in your way, which is usually like the pain of a sexless marriage or, but I want a baby, but you can't unless you're having sex.
Even being so open about plastic surgery. Should I change my face? I mean, these are big things. And maybe that's also maybe it's more culturally open to talk about it.
We also have to talk about the one lady who was like, oh yeah, I'm severely depressed and I have an appointment for assisted death coming up. And the reader's like, okay, well, stop that appointment. Don't do that. Give yourself 2 more years and then you'll see that you actually don't want that appointment anymore.
Absolutely. So let's set this up. That was Dr. Esther, and she's a famous medical doctor in Korea. And she's
a TV doctor.
A TV doctor. She sits down with Muden, who reads her tarot cards, and then she switches over to Sobline, and they have their readings. And during the reading, it is revealed that she is so depressed that she is taking that thing that Carrie Fisher did where they fry your nerves.
Electroshock therapy.
Yes. And that she is has picked a date. Says on national television, I have picked a date for my assisted suicide. And I mean, this is why Sobine is the GOAT, because the calm and the clarity that she received that information, that she held space for it, that she got their guides to come through and provide comfort and care and a timeline for healing. I mean, this whole scene shook me to my core, and I feel like it is such an incredible moment in television history to have somebody talk about their depression in this way and to be so open. I'm rooting for Dr. Esther. I want her to get like a Pulitzer Peace Prize for like being so open about this. But I thought I was wowed by the entire reading.
It's important to note also that she didn't come in saying, I want to die. What's my reading? She came in stoic and she wanted to know if her husband would remarry, was her question. And from that question, Lee Sobine was able to pull out that she was really depressed, that she had already, it feels like you already made arrangements, you've set him up financially, you've set your family up. Like I'm feeling, oh, you're very depressed. And that's when it broke open and we got to hear. So it's not even, it was like through the reading that it was revealed that this is what's happening. And she answered openly and honestly, which I think is so beautiful.
America could never.
And there was also, I feel like, the moment when she was like, convincing her, like, push this off. She's like, I'm not telling you to do this for your family because I know you've already come to terms with that. That's not going to be the thing that's going to work for you. You find so much satisfaction through your work and that will continue and you need to let that fuel you, was like, and Dr. Esther was like, oh, you're right. Like, it just like, she was so open to that also, but to say on this TV show, like, don't stick around for your family. Like, that doesn't matter. That's not going to matter to you. Yeah. Stick around because of the like personal joy you're going to get out of your life. I actually thought that was really powerful. I don't know.
I agree. So many taboos kind of broken and worked through.
And she didn't even say, don't do it. It started with, push it back.
Push it back. Yeah.
Push it back. Let's see what happens in 2 years. Your luck's going to change in 2 years. Push it back.
And I thought the greatest part of that reading was that at the end of it, Dr. Esther said she really can't go see psychiatrists because she's a famous doctor on TV. And that, like, she got so much healing from talking it out, from being open. You know, she obviously is a very emotionally vulnerable person, but could this perhaps be the first time she's really, I mean, obviously publicly said it, that she had a plan? I mean, that is such a brave thing to do. And the fact that this kind of spiritual modality gave her the confidence to kind of emotionally share. But in the end, the client gets Monad. She picked Monad to be the winner of the 2 readings, which I also thought was really fascinating. And I wonder if she had a little bit of overshare whiplash and was like, I feel safer if we put the energy here. I don't know.
So the mechanics of that round also, this is like, we're down to our final 6. 6 people made it out of the like group challenge. and they have to go head to head. It was judged by the client and then also by the panel, because it was like the client gets one vote and then the panel is 4 people and they each get a vote.
That's how Lee Sobine ended up going through.
Right, because she got the panel votes. Okay.
votes.
Sorry, yes. There's so many rounds.
I know, so many rounds.
Can we go back just for a moment? Because another favorite moment of the show was when it was the pop star, the K-pop star, who was the judge, who got a reading.
Oh my gosh.
And he wanted a love reading, and he walked away with a phone number of like the hot one, who's like the confident, sassy shoulder pads for days, like
Solwa.
Yes.
Who I love.
Wait a minute.
Yes, love.
He got her phone number?
Oh, he gave her his phone number. Yes. Because she said in the reading, I feel like there's a reason that you chose me to be your reader. What? And he was like, yes. And slid the.
How did I miss that?
Because she was like, we're so similar. Oh, I keep getting this feeling that we're so similar. And I was like, oh, this is how you flirt with a client. Okay. Hello.
I have to say, I think she had sexual tension with the next client too. So fascinating.
Yes.
Fascinating. We're going to get there.
Well, I mean, to be fair, her next client was super hot and really sad.
And so sad.
So sad.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got 3 finalists for the last round, which is the Battle of the Souls. And our contestants are...
It's Solwa, Lee Sobine, and Yoon Daemin, who we have not mentioned yet.
Oh, we have to talk about him.
Please.
Because I feel like he was boring. I got him intellectually, but I think that he was boring because he got a bad voice actor. Like if he had a better voice actor, I would have been mesmerized, but they kept talking about his voice.
Beautiful voice. He's a singer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the way that he delivers a reading is like incantation style. And I'm like, oh, cool. But then the voice actor was like, the bees are floating around you. And so it sounded like an auctioneer or something. And I'm like, I can't listen to this.
That's a great point.
I will say I knew that he was a good shaman because the other there was a scene where one of the gals ran up to him and was like, am I going to get married this year? Like the other shamans were asking him to like tap in. So I thought,
And we know that's taboo. So
yeah, they were risking it all for some information. Yes. So the finale is quite intense, quite an emotional, jarring challenge, I will say. They show 3 pictures on the mountain, and one person in each of the pictures is deceased. Challenge was to do a reading and then perform some kind of ritual or rite to kind of help the person's spirit pass through, and also give the shaman the ability to channel the energy and the spirit of the loved one pass. So they're very emotional readings. We have a bereaved husband, we have a sister, and then we have a father. And so we're already kind of set up like this is going to be a really big emotional journey, and it for sure is.
Thanks. Sorry, you're being very tender with this, and I'm like, do you think that they knew that none of the tarot readers and the foot readers were going to make it? Because I want to see what that would have been.
I think.
But continue.
Knew.
We can be tender.
I think they knew. I think we should spend a couple of minutes talking about each of the finale moments because they were for sure knockout moments. So Solwa, am I saying that right?
Solwa, yeah.
Solwa.
So
Solwa chooses the man.
I mean, as much as we can.
Who is
pronouncing these Korean names properly? I'm so sorry.
Yes, we are sorry. So Solwa picks the bereaved husband, who's very hot and very sad, as Rhiannon
and
says.
used to be a pop star, also.
Yes.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, his hair. Oh, he had like perfect hair too, and I was like, I know why she picked him. She has a type, and it's clearly retired K-pop star.
And she picked him so quick.
Yes. She ran up
those steps
said,
to get to his picture.
My granny deity said, get that one. And she did. And she does a beautiful reading. It's pretty emotional. I feel like he's pretty stoic as a client. Like he doesn't give her a lot, but you can tell he's like kind of drinking it all in. I will say as a medium myself, I found these readings to be really interesting because something that like is drilled into my head as a Western medium is that we have to be evidence-based. Like what I say and what comes out of my mouth when I do a reading is like, I need to bring up things that only you and the deceased person would know. So I'm talking like the color of a sneaker or their favorite food or a memory you shared together. And it's really interesting that these readings felt more almost like energetic readings than like evidence-based. So that was kind of interesting. And I will say the shamans don't really consider themselves mediums, ? Like they feel like they can connect to the dead, but it feels very like they have to be at a shrine and the rules are different and they can only do it if they're channeling through the rite. So I thought that was kind of an interesting just comparison that I would consider my job to be more casual than like the way they channel.
Yes, as someone who's not a medium, I can't talk to dead people. I could summon them, I think. I could sometimes, depending on what the healing requires, because I do energy work, right? So even like when I think about what I do, so it's hard for me to explain now that I watch this. It feels like I would identify how they identify, where if part of the work is to connect with the deceased person, then I could do that through ritual and ceremony, but that's not who I'm having a conversation with at any point. So it's interesting. I wouldn't know how to do evidence-based stuff either. I would just be delivering whatever messages. But for a competition show, this is where it got a little bit interesting because I thought Solwat, beautiful, good for her. Charismatic. She did also do a very accurate reading of like, I couldn't eat, food's going right through me. Like she was able to pick out how the wife died. Very clear. So I'm like, okay, to me, that is like, you're doing something. But then everything after that felt a little
showy.
Dramatics, yes.
It did feel over the top in a way.
She screamed at him.
She really did.
Well, I gotta be honest. Part of it was because she screamed at clients before when they did that other reading. She was like, the granny's coming through and she's mad. And I thought maybe that was like a cultural, like that's what they're expecting. You know? And that they're open to kind of receiving and being berated and being, given advice.
Yelled at by their dead wife.
Yeah.
To keep living.
Selfish.
And she certainly, there was one time.
Selfish fool.
Before she performed the rite where she was like doubled over. So she definitely was physically feeling all kinds of things. But I think it was hard for me as a medium not to judge the process of just like what I do versus like what someone else is up to. So I thought that was really interesting.
It felt from like my extreme outsider's perspective, it felt like, I know that she was obviously channeling the emotions like of the deceased wife, but this is so much emotion to like put at this man who's like gone through this loss. Like it just felt like he just like had to like sit there and like take it.
But also I think there's such a gift, and I felt like this with you and Damon, who channeled the little girl, and the father had to kind of receive information from the little girl. And at one point, he's kind of jumping up and down during his ceremonial rite. He falls over and he reenacts the death of the daughter. And I think from an outsider's perspective, we could say, well, that's so dramatic and that's over the top. And why would you take advantage of a grieving father like that? But then the father got to kneel on the ground and say goodbye to his daughter.
Yeah.
And in no way, shape, or form would that ritual, would that ceremony ever have existed without all of this.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's something really special about the ceremony of it and how grand it is and how dramatic it is, because it really allows people to energetically release and play out saying goodbye.
Yeah.
That, especially because it seemed like the point of this was to let go, because the thing that all three of them had in common is that they hadn't let go of their belongings, which in Korean culture, you are to burn everything.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Like you don't pat like, oh, I've got my grandma's ring or whatever. That is keeping them, blocking them from being able to reincarnate. And so these were all people who were having a really hard time letting go. And so the healing was being able, the way that you said that, Erin, it like changed my perspective on this. Because yes, the other thing that it makes me think about is that, you know, my husband has had the experience of channeling as a trance channel situation. And in that session, he didn't mean for it to happen, but he kind of like got booted from his body and put into a break room, and then someone else possessed his body. And I had a conversation, like interviewed the person that possessed his body, and for like an hour, just having a conversation. And my husband had a different voice. He had a different accent. He had a different body, the way that he moved through the air. And so I was convinced, like, he's an actor, and he's a very good actor. But this was too, like, suddenly he's got a Southern accent, like a New Orleans accent. Like it's such a different expression. And one of the things that kept distracting this person was that he was like, oh, now that I'm in a human body, I feel like I can feel emotions again. And I hadn't been able to feel emotions. And so suddenly he's like, oh, I feel like desire and longing. I feel sadness and heartbreak. Oh, it feels so good to feel heartbreak. And so thinking of that, it makes me wonder too, if this was like a moment for
them both,
as they're channeling, like allowing their bodies to be an instrument for emotions too.
Well, even Solwa drops on the ground and sobs for like 10 minutes. So maybe that was her channeling and releasing whatever the spirit needed to express to be able to move on.
And then I feel like in opposition to both of those two, we have Lisa Bean's reading.
Oh my God. Let's get into it. Caitie, tell us what happens.
She sits down with this sister, or this woman whose sister has passed, and just like, I feel like they were just immediately in opposition. Like she was not getting through.
It's interesting because when I saw it, I thought at first it was this like really charming reading. They were kind of breaking the ice and stuff was happening. And then suddenly she was like, oh, I'm really nervous. I'm shaking. And she started rocking back and forth. And here, at least the judges explained that when a deity's taking over, that it can cause shaking. And I've had this sensation before where it's like there's too much energy, like something's happening and I'm shaking and it's like I am cold. My jaw starts like where it feels like it's cold, but it's not cold. Like the temperature is not cold. I don't know what's going on. And so it felt like she was starting to experience that. Now, the other thing that I noticed is she had, what's it called when you have half facial paralysis?
Well, this is the crazy thing that they tell us later is that her sister had facial paralysis when she fell. Yes. However, now it seems to be physically appearing on this client. And so the whole time the client is kind of twitching, side of her face is moving. It's a very you can tell she's uncomfortable the whole time. Like there's not really a moment of peace. And so being the goddess she is, it really kind of holds and anchors and grounds. And it almost is like she's reading the situation on like 10 different languages and is like seeing how all this is going while the sister is kind of twitching and rocking and really, and she's being so calm, and she asks a couple times, like, are you feeling okay? Should we continue the reading?
The other thing that happens is Lisa Bean reads, oh, the spiritual gift runs in your family. And we've already been primed by this point because we've heard about shamanic illness and that you can't battle fate, if you will. And we know that shamans aren't supposed to read each other, right? Like they've already established that all this is taboo. And so she's like, you have spiritual gifts. And then the client reveals, I was told not to ever come to a shaman because it could turn it on or activate it.
But when she says, I'll see you at your shrine, the woman's face changes. And then she said, you're annoying. Like a different voice comes out, almost like she's kind of battling kind of two personalities. And we get to see this kind of very aggressive illness, ?
But the other thing is that it's out of nowhere. She starts sneering. Like
Yes.
it's not even just
a growl.
She becomes very antagonistic, like so quickly, I feel like.
out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
I don't even think anything was said that could have, it was just at like suddenly, you know, she went from shaking to like, oh, I don't trust you. I don't trust you at all. And it felt like the paralysis was less when she, because she was like making like scowling faces, and it wasn't as exaggerated as when she was just like twitching and trying to hide it. And so I was like, oh wow, like her whole face is changing. It's a very fascinating to watch the turn because her eyes suddenly change, like they get really dark and intense, and it's that thing where
it was wild. And I was like, could this be an actress? Like, this was the first time in the show where I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing with my eyes, and I can't believe what this woman is like doing in this space. Like it felt crazy to me.
Yeah. But I feel like everyone in that room was like, oh, well, we all know what's happened here.
Yes. This is why I think it's so important for everyone to know about spirituality or like spiritual culture or energy stuff. If someone's having a thing, and if we were just like, oh, this is a shamanic thing, they say this a lot with schizophrenia, right? That it's our version of schizophrenia is it's all culturally specific. And so our American schizophrenia tends to be very paranoid. It's like, they've tapped my phone, someone's after me, something's going on. But in other cultures, it's not. Some people have like really positive delusions, and it's great because of how we receive people, how we treat people who are going through psychosis, who are going through this thing, where if you're like, oh yes, this is because of the way that Lisa Bean was able to just hold space for her, because she's like, I see what's happening. I know what's going on. Then they could find some sort, like not a full resolution, obviously, but they could get to some kind of resolution in that moment without judging her, without being like, oh, this lady's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. She was like, I see clients like this all the time. This happens where spirits get stuck and souls are trapped.
It was like, I just felt like that she had to stop. She's like, okay, well, we just have to stop the reading. And then like the other shamans were like, oh, well, because this woman's possessed by her sister. Obviously. So
obviously.
And I will say, I thought for sure the producers were going to demand an exorcism. And I was like, oh, this is where we're going. And the fact that they didn't do that, because they were like, oh no, like we can't deal with this energy. Like it must actually not go, and we must not perform right. I was like, oh, then it is real. Like, because if it was set up, they would have totally had the storyline of doing the exorcism.
Yeah.
That is such a good point, is that if it was an actress, no one would have been scared. But this is also when they were like, oh yeah, it's 11 p.m. when the ghosts come out.
It's the rat hour, the hour of the rat.
Yes.
Oh my God. But this is also, I feel like, one of the, you know, kind of flaws in this setup is you pick these three people to come do this last round of the competition, and Lisa Bean just can't really do her round, and has nothing to do with her. And it's just like, there's no way to create like three of the same situations. I
will also add that she could have done something. There were multiple things that she could have done, but ethically she could not.
Right.
And I would say in an American competition show,
right, she would have done something.
Never.
Yes.
Honestly, I feel like that's why we're going to jump to our winners. Lisa Bean does not win, unfortunately. Yoon Daemun is the winner, is crowned the Fate Reader. However,
but this is because the client gave her zero points.
But I would argue, like, for you to not take on a client and not move them forward because that's what's in their best interest, she should be the winner. Like, that to me felt like, Go ahead, Caitie.
Hands down.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Is that, what if there's the three of them at the end, and it's like, okay, Yoon Daemun is the winner, and she says, I was isolated since I was 7. This is sort of the first time I've been around other shamans, and what I've made here is like a bunch of friends. What if she was the winner? Because now she has a bunch of friends.
That was the moment where I was like, oh, this is my Great British Baking Show. Or, you know, like this is the where it doesn't matter
And
who
listen,
wins.
there are winners and there are winners.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
nobody
Exactly.
remembers who Kelly Clarkson, went against in American Idol.
Justin Guarini, of course.
we remember
him.
but
They
like
went on tour together. No.
but there are stars that we hold on and we
Yeah.
collect from these shows. And she, let me give you guys
She's
a little
star.
Yeah, let me give you a little update on what Sabine is up to. She is fully booked out, pardon me, until 2029. Okay.
Booked
She
and busy.
of all of the shamans, she is the most booked. So I think also her ability to they did that little montage where they're showing her kind of walk into the lily pads for the first time, and she talks about how her granny spirit wanted her to go back to her beginnings and like humbly accept this role as a shaman. Like the edit they gave her at the end was like she was definitely production's favorite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we know that she's ethical. I mean, to me, that's also very important, that this isn't about showing her power. It's about that I have to do this. I can't help it. And I submit to what I'm told to do, which I think is a very important relationship to have as a psychic, or, as when you're working with energy. It's so easy for it to get distorted because you suddenly go, it's that thing where I think men do this a lot with art, where it's like, oh, I made this beautiful piece of art. I'm a genius. I must be talented. I'm great. Where it's really like, oh, this thing flowed through me and I'm just a vessel and I'm so grateful. Thank you for allowing me to be the vessel. Or, you know what I mean? Like that's also a way to do it. And to me, Lisa Bean is the person that's like, I'm just a vessel. And I'm glad that I got to show it here. And I'm glad that I got to make the friends instead of being like, oh, I am psychic, all-knowing, powerful, and I can read your fate.
Yeah, there was sort of the one moment they showed of like Confessional of Solwa, like going into the finale. She's like, well, I guess I just have to win. And it's like, okay, well, now we know that you're not going to win.
Round? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In the team round, she was like that too, where she's like, I'm competitive. And yes, I love that.
Also, the streamer has confirmed that work on local versions for additional markets is now underway. So they're going to continue to do the mainstream ones, and then they're going to have the little kind of RuPaul's Drag Race in different cities kind of energy. If you will.
Global Battle of the Fates.
Yes.
I'm excited to learn about like how this all would play out in like other cultures of like what's the like shaman culture for different, places.
That would be awesome.
What's
and
interesting,
Rhiannon and I are available for the American version. We're ready to host.
We got to put that out into the universe.
What's interesting about this too is that when I think about the American competitions, because there are psychic competitions in the US already, and some of them are like readings, right? And some of them, like the really popular ones right now, are the Psy games, where they're like remote viewers, where they do the blindfolds and then they see the colors or the words on a book or whatever. To me, it's all very like CIA, like based work. MK Ultra, like that kind is what's really popular in the US. But it's not necessarily like the spirit of God is flowing through me the way that it is in the Korean shamanism.
I feel like there was one shaman who came in who was like, and I'm also Christian, and everybody laughed at her.
I couldn't tell why they laughed.
No,
were they
but
like
they were,
bitch, or were they?
But they were like
okay,
universally,
cute.
they were like, what is going on with her?
Funny.
I love it. We didn't really talk about the cover up too much, but I will say in doing research for the show, millions of articles about how it was fake, how staged, how the producers would give them the information. So I think for viewers, it's like using your discretion to get a kind of feel of how serious the contestants were and you see for yourself how you feel about it.
I always think that that's a great opportunity to examine, why does it have to be fake? What does it mean if they're tapping into something? You know what I mean? Like what's the harm in that? They literally saved lives on this show.
Wow.
Caitie Rosen, we love you. Yeah. Where can people find voice notes from the group chat? Tell us where you want people to connect with you.
It is exclusively on Patreon because I refuse to learn how to make it go anywhere else. So if you just look up voice notes from the group chat in Patreon, if you want to come learn about who are West and Sierra and Amanda, or what's the backstory of Ashley I on Real Housewives of Rhode Island, my insights into Justin Trudeau's relationship history, whatever, I post sort of when I feel like it, but please come join me over there.
It's beautiful. And we're going to do a bonus episode with Caitie where we do some psychic romance matching. So stay tuned for that.
We're going to do some games, psychic games, inspired by Battle of Fates.
All right. Thanks, guys. Check out a sneak peek of our bonus episode dropping this Friday. Inspired by Battle of the Fates, we do our own psychic love reading based on Caitie's Hinge profile. Plus, Rhiannon does a collective energy reading so we can all magnetize a little bit more love this summer.
Okay, contestant number 2 is, well, we're starting off on a negative, which is that this is a man.
When people are already partnered, it's just such clearer conversation. It's so much easier to be transparent. So
no, I have found that as well. That's my preferred person to date, is someone who is already in an open relationship.
Yes, thank you. Had to get my divination tools.
Okay, boo, a tarot reader. Ugh. I'm talking to my deities.
Oh, we got bells. We got
my bells. Deities are telling me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Hidden History of Magick. If you like the show, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. This show is produced by Rhiannon Houch and Erin Bagwell. A very special thanks to our patrons who make this podcast possible.
To join our coven of gorgeous witches, get bonus episodes, attend live events, and learn real magic inspired by each episode, join us on Patreon.
If you would like your own personal reading from Rhiannon or Erin, check out our links in the show notes. Until next time.